Welcome back, everyone. Pet Sematary 2 is one of my favorite bad movies of all time. Just a total train wreck of a film that I absolutely adore. Today I'm going to be taking a look at what makes it so bad it's good, and if it could be tweaked to become an actually genuinely good movie. But first, a big thanks goes out to Dove, who chose this movie for me to talk about over on Patreon. If you'd like to choose something for me to review, head on over to patreon.com/OGWnostalgia and sign up at the Sheriff Gus tier, named after Clancy Brown's character in this very movie. Pet Sematary 2 was released in 1992 and stars Eddie Furlong, I think we're calling him Edward now, Anthony Edwards of ER fame, and Clancy Brown, who I'm told is Mr. Krabs. I've never seen a single episode of SpongeBob. I would know him more from Highlander. And this. Every time I saw him after seeing this movie when I was like 13, 14, every time I saw him it was, hey, there's Sheriff Gus. And also, because I suspect Dove will yell at me if I don't mention him, Jared Rushton as the bully Clyde. This movie and the first Pet Sematary were both directed by Mary Lambert, yay for women in horror, which feels odd because they're so tonally different. But then again, Pet Sematary 2 can't seem to settle on a tone, but we'll get there. So for those of you who need a refresher course on Pet Sematary 2, here we go. Eddie Furlong is Jeff, a creepy little shit who definitely wants to fuck his mom. His mom is Renee, an actress, and his parents are separated. His mom, Renee, dies in an accident on a movie set, and she was from Ludlow, Maine, the town from the first movie. And Jeff and his dad, Chase, who is a veterinarian, go to Ludlow to bury Renee and move into the old summer house that she owns. Shockingly, it's not the same house from the original movie. We meet Sheriff Gus, who basically tells Jeff, like, yo, I totally fucked your mom in high school.
Hey, Jeff. Yeah, your mother and I used to be sweethearts?
Really?
Yeah. Prom, homecoming, whole 9 yards.
I always wrongly remember this conversation as taking place at the funeral instead of the vet's office, because honestly, that's the exact kind of fuckery I would expect from this shit show. Anyway, we meet Sheriff Gus and his stepson Drew, and eventually Drew's mother Amanda. Some bullies, led by Clyde, clue Jeff into the magical resurrection properties of the ancient Indian burial grounds, because of course that's what it is, past the Pet Sematary. Sheriff Gus shoots Drew's dog Zowie one night because the dog is totally cock-blocking him, man. A totally reasonable response. And Jeff and Drew bury Zowie in the ancient, magical Indian burial grounds beyond the Pet Sematary proper, which of course resurrects him. On Halloween night, Zowie stops Sheriff Gus from definitely murdering Drew. Good zombie Zowie. You get all the cookies. And then Jeff and Drew decide to bury Gus in the Pet Sematary to bring him back to life, because teenage boys are fucking stupid. No, seriously, that's not me. Mary Lambert said this in an interview. I really wanted to get into the idea of what goes on in a teenage boy's head on why they do stupid things, because that's the kind of stupid thing a teenage boy would do. Louis Creed, from the first movie, buries his son because of an intense desire, a feeling of guilt that it's his fault that the boy died. But Edward Furlong's character buries Clancy Brown in Pet Sematary because he's a teenage boy, and he's stupid. For teenage boys, the blood is not going to their brain, it's going somewhere else. I'm not really sure that statement applies to this movie, although it is very obvious throughout that Jeff definitely wants to fuck his own mom, so ew. So Gus comes back from the dead, kills the bully Clyde, puts him in the Pet Sematary, kills Drew and Amanda, but makes no attempt to bring them back from the dead. Rude. Then digs up Renee's corpse
Because I wanted to fuck her.
so creepy Jeff can have his mommy back. All hell breaks loose. Chase kills Zowie and Gus. Renee and Clyde try to kill Chase and Jeff, but the good guys prevail and say so fucking long to Ludlow. Okay, now that we've got the basics out of the way, let's move on to specifics. So Pet Sematary 2 is that odd sequel that really has nothing at all to do with the first movie, and yet will not stop referencing the fact that it's a sequel. From Clyde at the Halloween party in the Pet Sematary, telling the kids the story of the first movie as if it's a ghost story.
That old Lewis was one sick puppy. Digging up little Gage, maggots pouring out of the dead kid's eyes. Ellie Creed was the only one that lived. Then one night, she freaks out. Hacks up the grandparents with an axe. Police found her licking the brains off the blade. Threw her in the psycho ward. All she could say were 2 words. Pet Sematary. Here's the best part. 2 nights ago, she escapes. Man, I hope she doesn't show up here.
To everyone and their brother, just casually mentioning the Creed business. And Louis Creed.
You heard about the Creed murders yet?
Creed cat. Bastard's name was Church. The dog isn't sick, it's dead. And so was Creed's cat. And so was his wife on the night she was killed for the 2nd time.
I swear, this is the weirdest thing that's happened since Louis Creed dug up his boy.
Yeah, you're a sequel. We get it. Pet Sematary 2 has many of the same beats as the first movie. It feels more like kind of a soft reboot than a sequel, but we're not going to talk about the actual remake today. Eventually I may cover it. But both Pet Sematary 2 and the original Pet Sematary have a family that's new in town. The dad is in the medical field in some sense. In the first, Louis Creed was a doctor. In this one, Chase is a veterinarian. The main character is told about the Pet Sematary and the magical resurrection properties of it. Not the Pet Sematary itself, it's actually past the Pet Sematary proper to the ancient Micmac Indian burial grounds. Because of course that's what it is. That old chestnut. There's a pet who's killed and buried and resurrected, and then they try it on a human, and all hell breaks loose after a human is resurrected. I mean, hell, a Ramones song even plays over the end credits of both movies. In the first one, it's the actual song Pet Sematary written for the movie, but in Pet Sematary 2, it's Poison Heart, which just feels like a random pull off the Mondo Bizarro album. Seriously, I think The Job That Ate My Brain would have just as much relevance to the movie, but sure, why not? Now, where the two movies really diverge is in the decisions to resurrect a human. In the original, it's a grieving father who desperately wants to bring his toddler son back from the dead.
Digging up little Gage, maggots pouring out of the dead kid's eyes.
And then his wife, after this little demon child kills her. And it basically all happens at the climax of the movie. But in Pet Sematary 2, they're having a fire sale on resurrections, guys. Starting around Act 2, we're just resurrecting everybody up in here. Drew and Jeff resurrect Gus, Gus resurrects Clyde, Jeff and Gus resurrect Renee. I mean, hell, I'm sure Renee's plan was to kill and resurrect Jeff, too, so they could be a family again. Not Chase, though. She seemed pretty serious about divorcing him. Now, I know that according to the rules laid out in Scream, sequels have to have a higher body count. But not like this, guys. It loses impact when you're just killing and resurrecting all willy-nilly. Seriously, why Clyde? So impactful? No, not so much. But does the sheer stupid farce of it make me laugh? Absolutely. Now, Mary Lambert does say in that quote I read that she wanted to explore why teenage boys do stupid things, namely talking about resurrecting Gus. What she doesn't mention is all the other stupid things Jeff does. For instance, bringing his new kitten to school with him and hiding it in his jacket all day. I guarantee you 100% Jeff is just covered in cat piss now. Or after Drew spends the night burying Zowie, Jeff sees him the next morning covered in dirt and blood and does not ask him, "Oh my god, are you okay? What happened?" No. His first question is,
Yeah, I was just going by your house. Where's your bike?
Jeff, come on, man. Look, guys, I have no idea how seriously this movie wants me to take it at any given moment. It shifts tone so quickly from scene to scene, I feel like I should sue for whiplash. The instrumental score is dark and moody, and then the actual songs on the soundtrack are generic, obnoxious movie rock music. Well, except for the Ramones. You'll never hear me disparage the Ramones. There's also a pretty cool song that plays during a car chase, but obviously, copyright, I can't play it for you. I wish I could. We get these weird, dark and moody sequences. Pretty cool. It's giving you one tone. But then we get...
I can come back, Chase.
Well... Doghead and boobs woman? I can't fully show you this without being thrown in YouTube jail, but you get the idea. And speaking of ideas, whose idea was this? I want to both shake their hand and slap them. I am equally horrified, disgusted, and amused by dog head boob woman and whatever the movie is trying to do here. While we're on the subject of weird sexual imagery involving animals, there's a sentence I never want to say again. Sheriff Gus raises rabbits on the side, and he is way too into watching them fuck. Like, this is really doing something for him, and I'm uncomfortable. But, you know, kudos to Clancy Brown. He's really giving this his all. Not that the movie deserves it, but I'm glad he did. So, thank you for your service, sir. Honestly, Clancy Brown is one of the best things in this movie that elevates it to so bad it's good territory for me. Sheriff Gus is this total fucking asshole when he's alive, and then after he's resurrected, just goes full camp. Except for the few scenes when he is serious, leading to those whiplash tonal changes. He gets some of the best lines in the movie.
Well, it was building a doggy door. No brain, no pain. Think about it.
Gets to be an over-the-top, gleeful asshole.
God, what does he want? He wants to kill us!
And so what if you can see him flinch when Jeff and Drew are burying him? And oh yeah, let's not forget, is this a reference to The Shining I see?
You understand these rights, everybody? Are you just too fucking stupid?
But just when you think we're getting campy, guess what? We're serious again, with moody music and a dream sequence while everyone's awake.
You bury your own.
But don't worry, we won't stay serious for long, because once Renee comes back from the dead, we get more scenery chewing, references to the original Pet Sematary,
That is better!
and references to The Wizard of Oz.
I'm melting.
Huh. Okay. Pet Sematary 2 could have been a very different movie. Originally, Mary Lambert had envisioned a true sequel to the original that would have picked up with Ellie Creed, the only remaining member of the Creed family, a few years after the events of that movie. However, the studio didn't want a movie about a teenage girl. They didn't think it was marketable. So instead, we get Eddie Furlong, our teenage boy protagonist, straight off of Terminator 2, as Jeff, a creepy little shit who definitely wants to kill people, and I cannot stress this enough, fuck his own mother. I'm sure what we got was more fun than the original idea, but not for the right reasons. After having gone through all the so bad it's good aspects of the movie, I wonder if it ever could have been just a good movie. I'm afraid the things I would do to fix it would actually just lean more into the camp, but let me put this out there. First, I would make Drew the protagonist. He's more likable than Jeff. I don't feel like he wants to murder me every time he looks at me, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't have a raging Oedipus complex. The story seems more centered around his family for most of the runtime anyway, so let's just go for it. Next, I would definitely remove the zombie marital rape, because, oh yeah, that's a thing that happens. Get rid of that. I don't need it. Move Gus telling Jeff he totally fucked your mom, bro, to the actual funeral. It's totally in character for Gus, and it's how I always remember it anyway. Plus, it's just much funnier that way. Put some headbanging music over Renee's death scene. It already looks like she's headbanging, so why not just lean into it? And finally, in my version of this movie, it turns out that Gus is actually Jeff's bio dad, and Gus is just trying to form his own nice little zombie family. See, originally I had theorized that maybe the reason Gus buries Clyde to resurrect him is because Clyde is actually his bio kid too, but that doesn't exactly fit in with how I want to change this movie, so I'm just gonna throw that theory out there for the movie we actually got instead of the one I'm trying to make, and do with that what you will. Because in the version I'm making here, Gus still kills Clyde, but he doesn't resurrect him. And instead of killing Drew for witnessing the murder, it brings them closer together. Because instead of freaking out and running away, in my version, Drew would run up and give Gus a big hug and thank him for getting rid of that shithead bully who's been tormenting him. because my version is just a very fucked up version of sweet and nice. There's still murder and zombies, but it's a nice family story. Look, families come in all shapes and sizes, so I guess in this one we have Zombie Gus and Zombie Renee and Human Amanda in a sort of throuple, all three of them raising Jeff and Drew. Meanwhile, Chase goes off to start fresh with Marjorie, who I haven't mentioned so far because that's how impactful she is to the story. She was their housekeeper, she got murdered by Zombie Renee. It's cool, she can live in this version. She and Chase can run off and do whatever they want. They're not in this story. Okay, look, I get it. My version is a parody. We can't take any of this seriously. I'm not a screenwriter, guys. So in order to make this a genuinely good movie, I think we have to cut back on all the elements that make me love it. The whiplash-inducing changes in tone, the campiness, the over-the-top performances, the dream sequences that make no sense, and Doghead Boob Woman. You can't have Doghead Boob Woman in a serious horror movie. Let me know how you would try to fix this movie. Would you try to make it serious, or would you just lean full force into the ridiculousness? Thanks for watching, guys. Remember to like, subscribe, hit the little bell thingy. All my links to Patreon and my original recap of this movie are in the description below. Until next time, remember.
Sometimes that is better.